Hi guys.
How you doing, Alex? How hard for you that was just to make the things happen? Like uh, do one of the most important peoples on the art.
Oh, it was a challenge. There was a lot of research that had to be done because we have not only Picasso the man, but his family still around, and so many people from Malaga lived in his generation and knew him personally, even Antonio. So there was a lot of pressure to do him justice, present him honestly, try to make sure that we give his story as much fact and history as possible so that we could really bring him to life. It took some work.
It's a little bit harder for you, have to read a lot.
I had to read a lot, and we didn't have a lot of time. Luckily, the scripts are very well researched, and the team behind it's so incredible that that part was made easy. And then there's so many books about him. There are the Richardson books that are hundreds of pages, and we had Fernand's diary, which was really useful for me because it gave me the emotional underpinnings and the everyday life, the little things that would get lost in history, I think, that really humanize him. And also videos, and Antonio, who's from Malaga and knows his accent and grew up around his work and his life and him really, and there were things that made it easier for me.
You tried to fake the accent when you was acting next to the actor like Antonio Banderas.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky to have Antonio so that I could go visit him on set and we could work together and I could hear him real time so I could try to finesse my own. Plus we had dialect coaches on set who could pick out sounds that I would not have been able to hear. It's tough, to hear yourself and fix yourself.
Oh, sorry.
But, no, go ahead.
So, Antonio Banderas talks about how he has a lot of similarities to Picasso. They both grew up in Malaga. They have a lot of similarities in terms of moving to another place to begin their careers.
Yeah.
Do you have anything in common with Picasso, or do you see parts of yourself in him and vice versa?
Absolutely. I think it was really fortunate for me to be cast in his young life. Not that I could have, done what Antonio did, but to be an artist coming up through the world and trying to make your own name and figure your own way feels a lot like trying to do it as an actor. So it was really nice to identify with that struggle and how that plays into your personal relationships and the passion that you have for your art, and then the frustration at not being able to land a part or get your painting seen or get into the grand exposition. All of those things translate pretty easily. So I think there were a lot of similarities in what he was going through during the timeline that I was able to portray.
And in this recent episode that we just screened, your character states that art isn't political, but we see this transformation when Picasso becomes older, when his famous line is, "Art is a weapon."
Yep.
Do you think that as an actor or even as a painter, or anyone who is in the spotlight for what they're known for, do you think that they have a moral and a social responsibility to do more than just their field of work and to be involved in the realm of politics or have that social responsibility?
Great question. I've had to think about this a little bit. I don't have much of a platform yet, but as it develops, I want to make sure that I'm conscious of those aspects of what this life means. I think that if an actor or musician or somebody who's not in the political field wants to stand up for something, they should use their platform to do so, but only if they've done all the research and they know exactly what they're talking about, because I think that a lot of actors and personas make the mistake of reacting emotionally very quickly to something and posting about it on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram, and not having done the research, they set this whole following on a rampage against something that they really don't know about. So if I'm going to speak about something, I hope to be very well versed in it before I speak out. And I don't think anybody needs to. I don't think because you are an actor, you have to be a politician and you have to be all of these things. We get into acting hopefully because we like that, and everything that comes with it comes with it. So if you want to explore those things, I think you absolutely should, just with
right.
strength and conviction and research.
What do you think caused the transition in the film from when we see Picasso as a young boy not really wanting to get involved in politics, not wanting to make that statement, to the transition we see where you know, Antonio Banderas' Picasso tries to really get involved. We see him paint Guernica, which,
Yeah.
you know, was a huge political statement at the time. What caused that transition?
I think for anyone, Pablo included, when something hits really close to home and it's not, you know, you're not hearing about people that are far away who you don't have any emotional connection to and their troubles, when it's somebody in your world, like from Guernica, where your people could have so easily been the ones that were hit, that really triggers a response where you're like, okay, I get it now, and I need to do something about this, and can do something about it. And I think for Pablo, there's also the sense that he's always looking for inspiration and fire, and when Guernica happened, it got him. I mean, he really felt it, and I think he needed to explore what that meant and how he could contribute and how he could manage his artistic persona with his Spanish identity and who he was. And when somebody comes for that, you know, he's got to clap back.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Also, what do you think about the quote, "Art is the lie people use to tell the truth"?
Yeah. I think that that's fantastically worded. I think that what Picasso did really well, that broke him out of centuries and millennia of art, was he wasn't trying to recreate what he saw. He was trying to express the emotional underpinnings of the things that he was looking at, which is why you see the women in his paintings transform from, you know, the more beautiful women that he meets when he's younger and in love, to the women that he has complicated relationships with and that he's kind of soured his perception of. He, you know, changes their faces and they become more angular and uglier on camera, and I think that that's what he means. He's not telling the surface truth, he's expressing through a lie what he feels. So it's a different truth.
So the painting is the emotion, it's not necessarily the physical,
physical
representation.
Absolutely. So in that way it's a lie, but it's just a different truth.
Would you say he was a selfish person? From all of your research, your reading, his love life, me, and art, would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing that he cared about the most was his art, and it was kind of a blind pursuit of that, and then as a result, everything in his life gravitated around that pursuit and that focus. So he fell in love with love a lot, and he was always looking for the inspiration that we just mentioned, and he was really searching for passion and conviction, and got distracted and bored easily and needed to move on. So I think in some ways he was extremely selfish, but I don't think he meant to do harm. You know, he wasn't malicious, he just was lost in his own world and the pursuit of this genius that he was trying to push for.
That was really hard, you know, for you to get all the research about, you know, Picasso, but at the same time, you know, like you were really familiar with the politics in that time, because at that time of the, you know, the life was really different than now, the politics.
Well, I didn't get much into like Franco or even World War II in my timeline with Pablo, but I did get, you know, the early 1900s and parts of World War I when it was, you know, as we saw in the episode that you guys just screened. And I've done research on those eras for sure and what life was like, and that's where we get, you know, what we can find through people's diaries are usually the most useful, because they give you, you know, a real unfiltered, not factual, just emotional experience, which is helpful for an actor. And it was important, I think, to recognize how those worlds are both different and the same, to bring that year, that time period forward while still doing it justice and making people realize that you are in the past and not, you know, on a cell phone or...
Working with Antonio Banderas,
Yeah.
you know, what was your most exciting experience?
Ooh, my most exciting experience? Well, when I first got cast, he sent me a text message, and I was like, because it's just like, Antonio Banderas just texted me, and this is my first lead really in anything, so to be able to share it with somebody somebody whose work I've known so well and who's so established and is such a career to like draw from. And then he Skyped in on my first dialect coaching with this woman, Joy Ellison. He Skyped from London, and those two, I was like, this might actually be happening. But, getting to the most rewarding part, I think, was getting to see how he was in Malaga with his friends and family during our premiere, because he's so grounded, he's so normal and open and lovely and family and friend oriented. To see somebody with such an impressive career and such fame stay so gracious was, I think, the real win of my experience, the takeaway.
In the timeline on the shooting, on the movie, on the film, you guys had to just do like a different scenes, but you was in the point you guys getting together the same set.
Yeah, well, usually if he was shooting, I could be as well, because we could just splinter off the crews, which is why we were able to accomplish as much as we did in as short a period of time as we did, because we could really have two shows happening at the same time. But we did, if there were ever scenes that I had off, or days that I had off, or days that he had off, both ways, we would try to visit each other and spend time together so that we could talk about nuanced things that we wanted to do, or just really pick up on each other's mannerisms. It was great to watch him and how he was portraying him, because there's things that maybe he doesn't even know he's doing because we're not always aware, that were so great and so like specific, and it was really cool to try to borrow some of those things and filter them in, so that hopefully as my timeline progresses, it approaches where his timeline started. It was a really cool experience to have that challenge.
Yeah, the reason I ask you that, because usually when there's like a that kind of actor, like a really top of the line actor, and they're really like, they used to criticize a lot of your role on the film, because they always try to make it really looks good at the end when it's getting old.
Yeah, he couldn't have been more collaborative and gracious, and the whole team was really supportive. It made it really easy for someone who doesn't have as much experience as Antonio Banderas to step into a set and feel like I could explore and had the freedom to try stuff, and then things don't work, things work, and you figure it out together collaboratively like a team, which is I think how all art should work.
What was the auditioning process like for you?
Well, I auditioned in my bedroom in my Valley Village apartment, and had my iPad propped up on a tripod, much like these are, and I had my friend from my downstairs neighbor come and read with me, and we sent it off to London, and then a couple weeks of nothing, and got a call from my manager that Ken, our showrunner, wanted to do a Skype call. There's a whole process, but it basically just happened here, and there were only a couple steps. I came into these offices, and it was really kind of lovely. It was all very exciting. Obviously, it's such an emotional roller coaster. Like, if somebody doesn't say something for an hour, you're freaking out. You're like, what did I do wrong? Did I mess something up? Like, am I like, now I've got to write a letter to like plead my case and send it to Carolyn Bernstein and Francie Calfo and try to plead my.
What scene was it that you did the cold read for, or the
So,
read for with your friend?
Yeah, so we had 4 scenes. Okay, let me remember what they all are. There's one on the mountain with Payares, where we just hiked, and there's the fire.
When it starts raining.
Not that one. It was the one where we're like lying down at night.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, that scene. We had the one with Jermaine after Casagemas has died, and so we had that scene where we're in her apartment. Oh man, the other 2. It was so long ago now. I'll leave you with those 2. There were 2 others. Let me think about it. I'll come back.
Everyone knows from history
Picasso as an older person, were you a little bit nervous, or were you just excited, or was it, easier for you to portray him as a younger, Picasso that not many people know his story from the younger days?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know his younger story either. I had heard obviously about the Blue period, and I knew what some of the artwork looked like, and same with the Rose period, and I was familiar with the work, but I didn't know anything about the man, or really how forward-thinking the early 1900s were. You read so much about the opium and the absinthe and the bohemian lifestyle where everybody's just having sex with each other, and I was like, that's actually weirdly futuristic, much more than I thought the early 1900s were going to be in France. But discovering all those little things and how they were really just a ragtag group of people living their best lives trying to make art. It felt a lot like being in LA with my group of friends where we're all just trying to do something and collaborate with each other to move forward. So it was also really cool to play with, Sonu's costumes and Davina's prosthetics and the sets that Arv put together. We got so lucky.
How did you get into character? Other than doing research, what else did you do? Anything unusual?
I don't have any real tics like that. Some people have a certain process every day that they go through to get in.
Like method acting.
Method acting, yeah. I'm not necessarily from that school, but I did keep my accent from when I would arrive on set to when I would leave, because you have to stay sharp in that, and I didn't want to sound American. Also, I find sometimes that a lack of sleep can be helpful, because it makes you more emotionally available for those really tough days when you're going to be put through it. Sometimes I'll try to stay up a little bit later than I would normally to give myself a little edge. But in terms of Pablo, a lot of reading, if there was a scene that I needed to find out more about, the Richardson books were great because you could, such a great index to find exactly what you wanted to know about. And Fernand's book, like I've mentioned before, was so useful. So it really was just trying to stay present and not freak out about the amount of work we had to do.
What was the most surprising thing you learned about yourself during this process?
About myself? Maybe just how much you can trust everyone. And that was from day one. Everybody was so lovely and so great at their jobs that it made it so much easier for me to let go. I think a lot of us actors have this it's not quite right yet, and being able to let go of those character flaws in myself and try to and really trust that everybody on this set, because they were so incredible, knew exactly what they were doing, was such a gift and helped me so much moving forward. To just surrender that control, I think was a
I
big
need to
thing
ask
for
you
me.
this: how hard or enjoyable was for you just working with those beautiful girls?
I am a very lucky man.
So hard.
I am, yeah. No, our cast, the men and women were also lovely, but to be able to work with such beautiful and talented and smart and accomplished and enthusiastic women really was amazing. And to be able to explore their stories when a lot of them I think would have gotten left in history, to be able to use Pablo as the entry point to all of these incredible women who surrounded him, I think was really exciting for me, because I would have never known about Fernand or about Eva or Gabby or Germaine or any of these women, or who I think a lot of people have seen the portraits of Marie-Thérèse and of Dora and of Françoise, but they don't know the people. So that was really fun for me, to be able to track his art and then see that guy with the bullet wound in his head, see Casagemas, and have done the research to know what went into that, transition, and then follow that through Fernand and through Eva and all of these women, and then see how his art changed as his living diary. Was kind of nice.
Out of all of his loves, because Picasso has had several loves.
He has.
Out of all of them, Which love do you think, or which union do you think was the most powerful?
Interesting question. I think they all had their place. I think with Fernand, he was with her for a long time, and they really saw each other together from when they were just in Bateau Lavoie to when they were wealthy and he had made it. And I think that relationship contrasts so drastically with his relationship with Ava, because with Ava, he fell madly in love with her like he did with Fernand at the start, but she didn't stay alive long enough for him to see the cracks beneath her. So I think that was totally impactful. Sometimes, your shortest flings are the most impactful because you haven't like started to hate the person yet. So you're like, if they leave,
That relationship.
yeah, you're like, but they were perfect, and like that was the one, because you haven't seen, that they leave the toilet seat up or like do the little things that annoy you.
It's like Vegas, right?
Yeah, yeah. What stays in that relationship? So I think it's hard to choose because so many were so important in so many different ways. And as he got older, they went, like all of the women he painted were a conglomeration of all of those relationships.
Which relationship do you think shaped Picasso the most?
Maybe that's so tough. I don't think he could even choose one. I think his relationship with Olga, his first wife, really transitioned him she changed him a lot in terms of like how he presented himself, and she brought him from, the scrappy Spanish kid trying to make his name to like the, aristocrat that he eventually became. So maybe in that way she changed him the most, but emotionally I think he was all over the place with all the women that he was with.
Did
It
you
was
go
real
to
lovely.
Paris, the actual museums in Paris?
Yeah, went in Paris and in Barcelona and in
Yeah.
Malaga.
The one in Barcelona is quite.
It is. I love the one in Malaga too because it's got.
And there's one in Antibes that is beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't get to go there, but the one in Malaga is nice because it's like a private collection.
Yeah.
It's so you get to see the stuff that you wouldn't see in the museums usually, which I thought was cool.